Okay, now we should be able to go ahead. Okay, so we're going to open up this book on the, I'm going to open it on the PDF if I can find it on here where I have things. Oh, why is it not showing me my network? There it is. Okay, it's not showing me. Oh, there it is. Okay. So those of you that didn't do this yet, I didn't open up the assignment, but let me look so we can read the assignment for sure. Cancel this over here. We do have part 2 and I haven't made it available, so we're going to do that one today, which I'll show up here in just a minute for you. Part 2, I changed the date. See if I can fix this so that we can get to it. I don't know why that due date's like that. Oh, I think I let it do it itself. Let's see the straight there. Okay, so assignment HeadFirst 1 was assigned for, it's not due till tonight, so whatever you're able to do in class, then you won't have to do it. But I need to know that you understand it, because the purpose of this one was to see if you were see kind of where everybody's at. So as we're going through it, if you don't understand something, please tell me. So you were to read from page 1 to 25, or on the PDF, it's actually to page 61. As you read, complete the Python program for the guessing game. Run the program and test it with values as on page 61 is what we're looking at. So you will upload 2 files, your Python file and a screenshot showing your test run, which can be in PyCharm or idle. I'll probably use idle today on here because this PyCharm kind of messed up, but it won't make any difference. So if we go to the PDF of the book, and I'm going to go to page, I think it's 61. So, oh, that's what the test drive should have looked like. Okay, so what this problem, which it goes through it, how many of you that use the book liked how they lay it out? Anybody like that? The pictures, it was a little easier with the pictures. Some people really like it. Some people say it's not enough information. So they show, like I was saying in here, they use idle, that's why I used to always use idle. But this particular problem wants you to do, your task is to take the Python code fragments from the pool and place them into blank lines in the game. You may not use the same code fragment more than once. So this kind of helped you. What this game was, which we ran this program I think before, is a guessing game, and eventually we're going to use the random function also so that it can generate randomly, because here we already know what number that we're putting in here when you do it. So you were supposed to code it using this as your code. And so you can type this into idle or Python, PyCharm, whichever you prefer to use. Go down here. idle. Okay, so I'm probably, no, this one looks like it's fixed, so I can, it is going to come up. All right, I also have this code, but if we're typing it in just like this and say print, and they give you all the code, so that's one thing. You can try to work it yourself, and then if you can't get it, then the answer's always right there. That's what some students really like about this book. So if you haven't done this yet, you want to go ahead and do it with me, then you won't have to do it for homework. So print welcome. And so we're not doing flowchart or pseudocode here. This is just the Python, some practice with Python. So then they say, here's something that they do in this book that we've been eliminating a step. Which step, the way we do it, how can we eliminate? See what they did here? They say G equals input, guess the number, and then they change G into an integer and put in another variable called guess, right? So if we just start out by saying guess equals int input, what is it? Guess a number. Now we're not going to have to convert it then to a, God, I was hoping I could hide that, but it doesn't look like it. So we're not going to have to convert it over to an int because we went ahead and made it an int in the beginning. I'm trying to get that to move over some. Okay, so that's what you should have typed in so far. Next, we're going to do remember we went over 3 control structures that we're going to be using all semester. What are they? What's the first one? Selection. That's the one that we're going to use right now, right? With the if statement. We had sequence. What's the other one? One more. Somebody else. Come on, one more. Loop. Okay, so it can be called repetition or loop. So we're going to use selection or decision right here. And that's what an if statement is. If guess, which is our variable. And why do I use double equals? Right, it's just it's dumping whatever's on the right side into the variable. We don't want to change the variable, we just want to compare it. So anytime you're doing a comparison like this, you have to use a double equals. And you'll probably forget that a time or two and you'll wonder what in the world is going on. And we'll try it with the other here in a minute and I'll show you. And the way Python is at the end of an if statement, this is just particular to Python. So if you were pseudocoding, you wouldn't need that colon there, right? Because pseudocode is supposed to be for any language. So here it says if guess is the same as 5, print you win. So if you guess 5 the first time through, because you've set the initial value, let's see, you win. So what it says here, you win. Now we're not in MindTap, so we don't have to be exact, but I would like it to be spelled right. Here. Boom, boom. All right, print you win. Else, and so else has to come over to this edge. This indent portion is really important. Else, colon, if guess is greater than 5, print, oops, I went back. Print what is weird, too high. And then we have a nested, so this is a nested if if else, because it's inside the else portion, right? So it's called a nested if. So remember, we're using those three structures and a combination. So if we flowcharted or pseudocode this, these are stacked on top of each other, but they're inside. We'll look at that here in a minute. Went too low. What's that?
I forgot to do the if.
Which if? Where?
Yes, if it's greater than 5, too high, else if yes, lower than 5, too low.
Oh, no, you don't have to put another if, because it's going to either be too high or too low. So you don't have to ask again, but that's good detail here. But we don't have to ask another if, because we know if it's not the same as 5 and it's not greater than 5, then it has to be less than. Does that make sense? Samuel, did you have questions?
Yeah, this is else supposed to just drive under.
If it always lines up with the indented code, has to always line up the if and the else. So this is a nested if else inside the else portion, and that's why those see these two line up. And what they did here is what I used to do when I desk check. When I wrote code out, I would go up and I would get my if else with a curly brace to make sure it was together. And you see there's no end if in Python. So even though we use an end if in pseudocode, that's kind of important, because in C++ and Java, you have to have a closing curly brace, which is the same as an end if. So now when we drop out of those ifs, then we want to say game over. Any questions? Everybody got that typed in? So we should be able to run it now. And in idle, it'll ask me now for the name of it. I'm going to save it. If I can find where that is again. W. Nope. This one. Okay, so this one I'm going to call it. I can't remember what if I gave y'all a name to call it, but we'll say HeadFirst guessing game. It was actually, I think I did it by page number in mine, so I'd know which one were to. This is page 25. But you don't have to name it that way, it's fine. However. Okay, so it runs, says welcome, guess a number. So if I put in 5, that's the only way I'm going to win, right? So now if I do it again, let me run it again. That makes me close this. Okay, run. This time, because I always want to check all of my code to make sure it works. So now if I put in 4, it should say too low, right? And it did, so it's correct. If yours didn't work like that, let me know. We'll see if we can see what's wrong with your code. All right, so that was the one where we just used the selection. So on test 1, you did just sequence. That's all you had to do was sequence. Well, now we're doing the selection structure, and we even did a nested one. Now, let me go over to, well, actually, I can just do it right here. I'm going to do the pseudocode right here because I want to show you the difference, okay? So the pseudocode, you don't even have to pseudocode this up here. This is just kind of a You can if you want to, but you don't have to. So here we'll say start. And then I would ask for input. So I could say input guess. Oh, actually, here's what I'm going to do. Let me see if I can make this work. Okay, so now it's going to make everything a comment. You see it was not at first. Okay, input guess. Then I would say if guess is equal to, and I don't have to put double equals because I'm just doing pseudocode. And I can even write out equals. Some people prefers that. Equals 5, then I can still say print, or I can say output too high. Oh no, is that what it does? No, you win. That's the one that prints you win. Right? You don't have to use quotes or anything because this is just your pseudocode. So then I go back over for my else. So I've got my if, then, else, and I don't have to put it on another line unless I want to, if it makes more sense that way. Output to high. Oops. No, I got to do another if, right? Else if guess is greater than 5, then output too high. I actually should have done this first, but I know Python is so close to being pseudocode that, especially on one as simple as this, we didn't. Else. Come on. Is it not going to go up for me? Scroll up. Come on. I guess it's not until I go. It's not going to show you. Let me see if I can get it to pull up further here. There we go. Else output to low. And then I'll go all the way back to here and say output game over and stop. So you see I did a multi-line comment in Python, but when you're in Lucidchart, see, you don't have to do that because you do your pseudocode in Lucidchart. But some people like to do it this way. You can put your pseudocode at the top of your Python, and you can use these multi-line comments. Like if I wanted to put this above that shows what my problem does, I can say, put it right up here. And there we go. So now Python will run and it'll ignore all of those lines of code until it gets to print welcome, right? So I could do it this way, and then I wouldn't have to have Lucidchart if I just like pseudocode. Because remember, I told you after test 1, you can decide whether you like pseudocode or flowchart. When we start doing functions, it's sometimes easier to do a flowchart than it is the pseudocode. But if you were doing, and we'll look at some of those before I assign one. Okay, so this was the first part of this problem. Now the next part, we're going to use the third structure. So we will have used, is there any sequence in here? Have we used the sequential structure where it goes step, step, step? We have to. in every program because it starts here and it goes to this step, and then it's a selection statement. So we're using a nested one here and one here, and then we have to step out. So the sequence is at the top, and then we have a selection statement, which is going to be the diamond shape, if that makes more sense. Does anybody want to do this, the flow chart on here? Want me to do the flow chart?
Is that pseudocode or flowchart of the second part? HeadFirst?
No, it's the second part of the problem. No, I didn't require that you did the pseudocode and flowchart on the HeadFirst problems. So the second part of the problem says, remember we looked at it, but let me see, I can't get all these different. So here was part, I guess it's okay. Oh, no, what did I do? I didn't want to do that. Oh, let me go back. Okay, so on what Samuel was asking is, what is assignment 2? So part 2 is right here. Part 2 is to go to the next part, continue to part 2 of the assignment and complete the chapter through page 33. So if I pull this up and I go next and I ran it, they ran it 3 times to make sure it worked all 3 times, all 3 possibilities of answers. So now it says, why do I have to keep rerunning the program? You mean I only get 1 guess? The users still don't like it. The program works and now generates extra feedback, but there's a problem. If the users want to have another guess, they have to run the program again. They really want the program to keep asking them for another guess until they finally get the correct answer. Can you see what the problem is? How do we get the computer to do something repeatedly? So that's our third structure, right? Repetition. And we're going to have a whole chapter in the Cengage too on just loops. I think that is chapter 4, but I'm not sure. So this is kind of an introduction in Python of doing your loops. We're going to change this into a function because I gave you that assignment to the functions one. So the guessing game program needs to be able to run some code repeatedly, not all of it, but some of it. So wouldn't it be dreamy if there were a way to get a piece of code to run several times? But I guess it's just a fantasy. So loops let you run the same piece of code over and over again. So loops are a little like branches in that there still has to be a decision made. Loops have a condition. So since it's a condition, it's still going to use a double equals at the top right here where it's doing it. For a branch, this code is called the body. For a loop, it's called the loop body. So the big difference between a loop and a branch is how many times it runs the code associated with it. So here is a Python while loop. Programming languages have lots of different ways of creating loops, but the simplest way in Python is to use a while loop. So here's the example. Answer equals no. So they're initializing remember I told you had to have what before you start a loop. We talked about this. You had to, like I talked about an old car and when you had to keep pumping the feet. It's called a priming input. So here what they did, instead of asking for input, they just start out with the variable answer equal to no. And so then they say, well, answer is the same as, that's the condition, no, then the answer, you would keep printing this out and print we're there. So let's see how that works. If you want to code with me, you can. If you just want to watch, we're going to do some things and test some loops here. See how it works. Okay, so I'm going to say file, new file. And so what it told me to do is to set up, let's just try the one it said. Let's set answer equal to no. And then it says while answer is equal to no. Oops, it wouldn't work if I had that double in. It would say no, it's not equal. Then I have to have a colon at the end, just like I do with my whiles. I'm sorry, with my ifs. So while answer is no, print. Boy, I hate this keyboard. Let's see, print. What did it tell me to print? Anybody remember? So this is page 20. Here it goes. Okay, so while answer is no, answer equals, oh, it's going to ask for input. Y'all didn't tell me I was wrong. Are you guys following along? Anybody have questions? Okay, answer equals input. Are we there? Did your parents ever tell you don't ask that again? You go on a long trip and you keep saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there? Question mark. And I got this wrong, so let me get rid of it. And then after it drops out, then I say, this will not be part of my loop. And then we're going to do something where I show you what happens. We're here. Okay, so how is it ever going to drop out of the loop? What's going to have to happen to make it drop out of that loop? What's going to have to happen? What happens to keep it in the loop? Put no. So what's going to drop it out? When you ask, are we there? And you say yes, then it's going to look up here and say, oh, it's not that anymore, and print we're here. So let's see if that works. Run. Okay, I'll save it to HeadFirst here yet. Here yet. That's what I'll save it as. Okay, so here we go. Oops. What is it not? Oh, anybody see what I didn't do? Why did it give me an error there? What's missing? Come on, Brendan, you see it? Good. I didn't close the quote, right? So then it gave me that error because my closing parentheses was green too, so I can tell I didn't do it right. Okay, so let's try again. Are we there? So if I say no, then I'll say, are we there? No. So it's going to stay in the loop until I say something other than no. And it dropped out, right? I wouldn't have really had to say yes. I could put anything except no, and it would have dropped out because it wouldn't have found a match, right? Okay, so everybody get that? See how to do, that's your first loop that you wrote. Okay, so next it tells us what we're going to do is take that guessing game program and we're going to make a loop. If you need to test that two things have different values, you can use the not equals operator. So the code is on page 32 in the book. Let me see where it is. So the actual code that we want to do now, we're going to actually use the random int built-in function. So we're going to use a built-in function before we write our own function. What is a function? It's the same as a module. What did we learn that a module is? It's a separate task, isn't it, somewhere? Well, random where it uses random is one that's already coded in Python for us. So we don't have to write it. We just have to put it in, import it into our program. And that's what John was asking about a week or two ago, about import. So here it says from random. So there's a big class, which is a bigger object than just random int. Random int is going to be a method that's part of random. So you say from random import random int, because that's what we want it to randomly generate an integer. And we want it to be from the numbers 1 to 10 is what that's saying. So if we go here and we take our program first, before we do that part, we're not going to do that part first. We're just going to say set guess equal to 0. So instead of having that answer thing, so let me go back to where I have that program open. It is this one. So now what I'm going to do is, instead of saying guess equals integer, before I start my loop, I've got to say set guess equal to 0, because I want to make sure there's nothing in there, right? So set guess equal to 0, and while guess is not equal to 5, so instead of saying equal, I'm going to say while, and I may still use that, while guess is not equal. And the way you say not equal is with an, oops, 1 exclamation, not 2, equal to 5. Well, guess is not equal to 5. What do I want to do? Then's when I want to ask for my input. So I don't need this blank, but I do have to. What do I need to do with this? What does Python make you do with this statement? Will it run like that? No. What do I need to do? Indent. Very good. So I have to indent it underneath my guess. Okay. Now, once I do that, all of this should also be indented because it's all part of my while loop. Except for print game over can stay there. So now it's going to do that over and over until there's until it's not equal to 5. It'll keep doing it until, so this way I can run it. Oh, wait a minute, that one. So this time I can run it. Welcome, guess a number. If I guess 4, it's asking again, too low. How about 3? Too low. How about 6? Too high. How about 7? So it's working. Still says too high. So I really didn't pay attention, or I would have not said that, right? Because if it was 6 and it says too high, I probably would try 5. And now it's where you can't see it again. Let me see. It's not going to let me move it this time. Guess a number. And I put 5 in. Guess a number, 5, hit return. You win, game over. Everybody get to work. This is part 2. And then the last, what you actually are going to submit, is where we use the int, random int. So now I've got it with a while loop, but I still have to, I know that it only works with one number, right? So I know what that number is because I wrote the code. So now what I want is I want the computer to randomly enter it, to randomly generate a number. So I can't put this number here. I'm going to have to use a variable. So I'm going to call the variable secret. So this is something that I have to put at the top of my code before anything else. I say from random import rand int. Okay? From random import rand int. Did anybody already get this working? Okay, so secret equals rand int, and in parentheses says 1, 10. So what it's saying is, remember when we looked at functions and modules, I told you it would always have parentheses. That's how you knew it was a function. It'd be like that instead of a variable. But with random int, you have to know, and I'll show you where to find all this. This is a function that takes 2 parameters, they're called, or arguments. And so inside here, I tell them what is the minimum and maximum numbers that I want generated. So I only have to guess between 1 and 10. I could put 1 and 5. I could put 1 and 100. But I'm just going to say between 1 and 10. So it's going to pass those 2 variables, those 2 values into this function, and then it's going to put whatever number it generates into this variable secret. So we won't know what it is when we run it. Okay, so then while guess is not equal to, it can't say 5, what does it say now? Secret. Because we changed the variable, we changed it from a constant to a variable. So everywhere where it was 5, it has to say secret now, so that we don't know what it is. Oops. You guys are so quiet, I can't tell if you understand. If you don't understand, you better ask, because this is some of the basic stuff that you're going to have to know to do test 2. You're going to be doing if-else's. I can't remember if we put a loop in there yet or not. Okay, so this one is going to randomly generate, and we won't know what secret is. So I'm going to run it. Welcome, guess a number. So let's guess 7. Too high. I'll try 5. You win. So it was 5 again. Didn't have to be. Okay, let's see if I can get it to generate a different number. Guess a number 3, too low. Guess a number, I'll make sure it's not 5. No, it's not 5 this time. Too high, so it must be 4, right? Y'all's work? Okay, so you would do, if you're using PyCharm, you would do a screenshot of your code and your output. If you're using idle, just do a screenshot of this and then upload your Python code and this, and that'd be it for part 2. This is part 2 when you use random int. So here we used all 3 structures that we talked about this semester. You've learned everything you need to know. You want to go home for the rest of the semester? No, you just have to be able to make combinations of these, and that's what we're going to do.
So for the second part, we're just making it actually like loop the whole time.
With the random int.
Okay.
Go ahead and use the random int. I think I may, let me tell you, see, I think I said from page 33, which is with the random int. It's actually page in your 67 in the PDF. So that's the code that, the last one that we did. So I didn't do pseudocode on that one. But now, if we wanted to take this, where'd it go? And make it, we're gonna use function. We're gonna use one small function. The part that is the biggest part is this branching part. So I'm going to take this out. Now this you don't have to turn in. I just want you to follow what I'm doing here. And I'm going to put it at the top of my program. I'm going to call it define, I'm going to call it message. You can call it whatever. Define message. There's my if else. And then at the bottom will be a return. Okay, so now what I have to do is put a call to that inside my loop, and I may have to pass something. Let's see, I'm going to have to pass print too high, guess and secret. So I'm going to give them different names up here. I'll call this just guess 1, secret 1, guess 1, secret 1. Because remember I told you that variables that are in the main are not known up here. So here I have to pass whatever guess is and secret is. So I pass to guess and secret, and up here they're going to be called guess 1 and secret 1. But it's the same variable value. It's just going to be dumped up there in the function if I've coded it right. I may have my indents off here. I can't remember if this has to go over. We'll see. Oh, I still did that wrong. Invalid syntax. Okay, what does it not like? Did I spell it wrong? Oh, it may want a comma. I can't remember. Yeah, that's what it wants down here. Oops. Okay, so welcome. Guess a number. 4, too low. 5, too low. 7, too low. 9, you win. Okay, so it worked exactly the same, but I put a function in here. So this is what we're going to be talking about in chapter 3. That's what you talked about, functions in there. And so when you make a function, the program doesn't even see it unless you make a call to it down here. And this name has to match whatever you named your function, right? And this DEF stands for defines, and that's how you code a function in Python. Now, the reason we named these variables different, Python sometimes works whether you do that or not, but the way all languages work is whatever variables are used here, when you get up in this function, it wouldn't know what guess and secret is, but you have passed them and dumped them in this new label called guess 1 and this label called secret 1. So it's still the same if statement, it just used different labels. So the value in memory doesn't change from this function to this function, but you have to have a different name up here because it doesn't know what these variables are. It's called stacks, and it gets in here it talks about it a little later on, and I'll show you. But because our logic book went ahead of time, I showed you a simple function, but you're not required to do one yet. Okay, so anybody have any questions? So you got HeadFirst 1. Boy, you guys are getting it good, huh? All right, so what we're going to go to next, which we're probably going to be done. Yes, Jamie.
Is the part 2 available to submit stuff on campus?
Uh-huh.
It's not showing up.
Does anybody have it showing up?
Mine popped up on like the side.
Yeah, it's on the side because
But
I
it
just,
doesn't show up in the module.
oh, right, I didn't add it to the module. It'll just be over in your to-do. I'll add it to the module just a second. Over in your to-do list is where it should have popped up. But, okay, let me see. There it is now. It should be showing now if you in the module too, but okay, you see it? Did you get it, Jamie?
Yeah, it wasn't showing up in my list.
Did you refresh?
Yeah, I logged out 3 times and refreshed it since I thought it was not.
Huh, that's really weird. I don't know unless you weren't assigned it or something. Oh, let me make sure I assigned it to all sections. Yeah, it says everyone, so everyone should have gotten it. Okay, so the next thing that's on here in your modules, oops, I'm in assignments. Let me go back to modules. Is functions, and this is the one that is the tutorial where he shows you just what we went over, functions and return statements. So you'll do the 2 tutorials here, and there, I don't know, I tried to get rid of that on another one, it wouldn't let me, so don't click on that little icon there. Click up here, and then it'll show these 2 tutorials. And so you will do a screenshot and upload the screenshot, and that's all you have to do on these. You don't have to upload the actual Pythons. So he does on functions and return statements, so that gives you a preliminary thing of what we just did. We just did a function, right? Yes.
It was right.
Oh, is yours not working right?
It did a weird thing. I did.
Yeah. Oh, you put that in there. You didn't put anything in there to ask the question.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't have any big quotes yet. We're moving along, so I'm probably going to go ahead and add that chapter 4 in, let me look over at Cengage and see where that is. I think 4 is, oh, it's just on if then else's. Yes, I'm going to add this one. And this is what I'm going to go over on Wednesday, but because I always let y'all have till the Monday on the test portion, that's what I'll do. Selected. Okay, so now you should be able to see Unit 4 in MindTap, and then let me get rid of the ones that are not ones you're supposed to do. So we have quite a few MindTap problems in here. This one goes into more detail of if then else's and nested ifs. I just like to go over that problem in HeadFirst like that because I think it's a pretty neat problem. Oh, wait, we want that one. Okay, let me say height selected. Okay. I shouldn't show any of these others. Yeah, I don't want those. So. Selected. Okay. Okay. So if you want to go ahead and read Unit 4, that's what we're going to do. We'll do some of the lecture on it on Wednesday. Let me make sure I got this set up right. Deselect, edit, share. Making decisions. Yeah, it should all be there now that you can see. And then we'll probably do a couple of these in here, just the if and the if else. We may not get to the nested if because I want to go over just a few things in the chapter. But if you read the chapter, then we can just work problems in here. Okay. So the Unit 4 test will not, I won't close it until, let me go here again, until next Monday, because if I do it Wednesday, it messes everybody up. But I will on, I'll put the 30th for the activity. Due date will be next Monday. Okay. All right, so we should be done. Anybody have any questions? Not, let you out early today. Yeah, let me in.
It's still messing up.
Yours is still messing up? Okay, let me stop this recording and then I'll